Emma's getting this last little bit of reflectix. We are not going to be using this flooring out here that came with it because that's not a very good thing to secure all of our benches and all the steel framing and the cabinets and all of that stuff too. So instead we're putting down some plywood. This plywood has like a water resistant coating on it. So if the floor does get wet and it seeps through, that should hopefully be fine.
We are insulating our floor. It's looking pretty good. So we already have all the plywood pieces pre-cut. And we're gonna put them over the reflectix.
Some thoughts on insulating your van. When you're insulating the floor and the ceiling, you've got height limitations, right? Because otherwise the van's gonna be too short and you're not gonna be able to stand underneath it. You know, especially once you add in your ceiling and flooring material. So on the floor, we're just doing one layer of reflectix because it's very thin. It doesn't have a high R value, but we can't use anything thicker and it's better than nothing. On the ceiling, we've got, I don't know if I can show you anywhere, we've got one layer of reflectix. Let's see, where am I pointing? We've got one layer of reflectix, and then we've got this material here, which is called insulate foam. And it's, one side of it is shiny, like this piece, which we had to just cut that and put that the opposite direction because we had a little bit that was shaped that way. So it's shiny on one side, that's got a reflective barrier. So we want to have that on the top of the van because our main concern for insulating is keeping the heat out. When the sun hits the van and it warms it up, we want the van to stay cool because we live in Southern California. So we want to reflect the heat out mostly. I think if you lived in a colder climate, you would want it the opposite way because you want to keep the heat in. Now that we have this up, once we get our electrical run, we're going to run another sheet of reflectix underneath this if we have enough room. I think there are some areas like along the edges of the van here where there's not really going to be enough space to run another sheet of reflectix. So in those areas, we'll just have the one layer of reflectix and one layer of 1.5 inch insulate foam. For the walls, we put a layer of reflectix over the whole thing, and then we put some denim insulation into all of the like crevices. Anywhere there was a decently wide area, we put denim insulation. We wanted to use denim insulation over fiberglass, one because it's a lot easier to put in, and secondly because it's a lot less toxic. Fiberglass insulation will off-gas for a long time, and it's just, better not to breathe that. And we're using recycled materials. It's 80% recycled, so that's cool that, maybe just a bit more environmentally friendly. So once we put our denim insulation in here, we had to seal the whole thing with another layer of reflectix, and we sealed it up with this reflectix tape to make a vapor barrier. The one problem with denim insulation is that it is a bit more prone to getting moldy. So we put the vapor barrier so that it'll prevent moisture from entering. It is treated for moisture though, so if there's a little bit of moisture, it shouldn't be a problem. You just don't want it, you want to prevent it as much as possible. Because it's a van build and not a house build, you have to use materials that are going to give you the best R value per thickness. Okay, that's the most important thing really, and so that's why we chose reflectix for a lot of it. The other things that we did is that we put reflectix underneath the headliner, so we've got kind of one layer around the whole thing, and actually we have it overlapped in the middle because we just used a big roll and we put one on one side and one on the other side over here. And then in some of these little like channels that run across the top here, we put some foam spray in. Oops, where's it at? We put some foam spray in because we couldn't really get denim in there very well. On the sides of these, we actually did use some denim. We just kind of shoved it inside because there's, let me see if I can show you. There's a slightly bigger hole right here on the sides Oh, we actually missed a little section of insulation right there. Now that I'm showing you that in the video. So we are finishing our final little bits of insulation. So what we're doing is we're putting one layer of reflectix along the floor, and then we're going to put our plywood on top of that. We want to put the reflectix under the plywood so that as you step on it, it doesn't make as much noise as if you had it over the plywood. Reflectix doesn't provide that much insulation, but the thing about it in a van build is that your ceiling is so low that you have to use it, and because the sides are so thin, you're working with such a small space, you need to get as much R value per inch as you can. And because reflectix, you know, it's like so thin. Let's see, let me show you. This stuff is so thin that while it doesn't have a super high R value, it's going to be better than nothing, and it won't take up a lot of space. So on the ceiling, what we did is, if you can see in here, we ran one layer of reflectix first. Then we use this insulfoam, which again has a pretty good R value per thickness. Do you love reflectix?
At this point, I'm just
Do you want to leave our van?
tired of using this stuff.
Do you want to leave our van just a shiny box, a shiny metal box?
Yeah.
It'll make it look like an Airstream on the inside, I guess, if it was like an unfinished Airstream.
As long as I have outfits that match this, then I'll be happy.
Okay, so get your silver on, I guess.
And then you can call me Robot G.
Yeah. All right, so here's how the van's looking overall, though. I got to get back to work. I kind of like filming, though. I just want to film and watch you guys do all the work. How about that? Sun is down, but we're working to the late hours.
We or us?
Go. Look at that hole. Alright, so this is what the van looks like. Start of day 9. We're just going to be doing maybe 2 hours this morning. And then we're going to take the rest of the day off and go for a ride and get some other stuff done. So, just a little update. That's what it's looking like.
And we are working on the van today. We have put the steel studding for our benches. Let me show you guys.
Measurements.
So our measurements for the steel studding framing for the benches are, let's see, I'll actually measure it right now.
So we got about 17 1/4, and then the other direction. You actually have to measure from the center line, but they're approximately 21 inches. Yeah, we're doing 17 1/4 tall, 21 deep.
So one thing you have to watch out for when you're building your steel studding framing for the benches is this section right here, because this is what helps your door go in. You see that mechanism? So just make sure you have enough space for that to go in.